Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Spartan.
And I'm Pudgy.
And we are reacting to Histories and Law Season 4 today. For those of you who have been with us for a while now, you know that at the end of every Game of Thrones season, we do a Histories and Law reaction. Some people in the comments like to say they don't count, but they do. And if you're wondering why, because we say so. So they do count as part of our reaction. A good number in the community enjoy these, and we frankly learn a lot from them. And we do firmly believe that they actually enhance our reactions to the seasons.
Yeah.
Particularly, one quick example is at the end of season 4, we saw the Children of the Forest. Now, is it the Children of the Forest?
Children of the Forest.
Yeah. Now, we would have had no clue or any idea on who they were. They might have been mentioned once or twice as a throwaway comment in the series. Other than that, no idea. Histories and Law season 2 and 3, I think, went into them in detail. And so our reaction in that moment was a lot more, I guess we could just connect a lot more with what was going on and get excited about it because we actually knew what was going on. So for those of you who don't love these, but love our reactions, rest assured these actually help us get more out of the episodes we're watching too.
Yeah, we're not as lost, although we can still be sometimes.
I'm never lost.
Yeah, so it makes us more aware of what's going on within the world.
Yeah.
Just a disclaimer, guys, we do pause in between each story. However, we've been notified by our moderators that there are some House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones spoilers throughout some of these sections. So we will be skipping over those. It won't really interrupt you guys too much. We'll just skip to the next part of the story and continue watching from there.
Yeah, so if you see it chopping a bit, it's just cutting out any spoilers that our mods have identified.
Now, this Histories and Law is coming off a really, really big season. So
probably the hottest season yet.
Yeah.
Although season 3 is pretty close, but yeah.
It is close, but I just feel like the whole of season 4 was like up there. Whereas season 3, there were moments, but I don't feel like the whole tone of it was like...
Season 4 almost feels like the end of an era.
Yeah.
We feel like we're entering a new phase now. We'll discuss this more in our episode 1 of season 5 reaction, but I just do get that feeling that we're entering a new phase now.
Yeah. So because of that, I am hoping that this is going to be enjoyable for us. And just like with all the other Histories and Law, with each one that we watch, we are actually more aware of a lot of things, and then we get to enjoy these a bit better, don't we?
Yep. Now, as always, a reminder that my attention span is not the best. So these require a lot of focus. My reactions might not be the best because I'm trying to take in a lot of information. I'm wearing my smart glasses, also known as my blue blocking glasses, to help the eyes just stay focused.
And relax. Yeah.
Yep.
And my memory, of course, isn't the greatest. So I've got my notebook that I'll be writing some notes down, so don't mind me.
It's funny because a lot of people who watch our reactions will think that I should be saying that. Little do they know, it's very different. Believe it or not, reactions are not given the true impression of our memories. Weirdly enough.
No, I think it does because this is how we work, right? I remember the small details that no one really remembers. Sparta remembers the bigger picture things, and I think that's why we work.
And Game of Thrones is a very small detail kind of show, so that's where you show me up. But don't worry, my time will come.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good with the anime and stuff.
I don't want your praise.
All right, well.
All right, I think let's get into it. We appreciate all the support over on our Patreon. If you do want early access to upcoming Game of Thrones reactions or the uncut version to those reactions, check out the link in the description and you can help support the channel there. For those of you over on YouTube, if you enjoyed today's reaction, leave a like, hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments what you thought of this Histories and Law. First one we've got is...
Surprise, surprise! Robert's Rebellion!
I wasn't going to introduce her or anything. I was just segueing you to talk. Why not? It's by Oberyn Martell, which is really cool. Did not expect the guy that epic to go out so soon, but it will be cool to hear his, because he had a very interesting perspective on everything that went on in Westeros and King's Landing, and it's interesting to hear from his point of view.
And I did like the way that he saw things. So although it's Robert's Rebellion again, I am excited to hear it from Oberyn's point of view.
Yeah, true. We've covered this like a million times.
No.
But it's like Oberyn almost could see through the deceit and the bullshit that a lot of people were sort of, even...
Like me.
Lannisters in some regard were sort of like believing this whole King's Landing game, this Game of Thrones, Whereas Oberyn was sort of like, could see through this whole Game of Thrones. For him, it was like almost like a petty, futile thing
Yeah.
that he didn't want too much of a part of.
Well, because he's from the East and they live a very different lifestyle. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's go.
Boom, let's go.
Twice, the Targaryens tried to conquer Dorne with soldiers.
I love his
Losing
accent.
voice
They
already.
failed. Only when the Dragon Kings came bearing husbands and wives did my ancestors relent and agree to join their 7 kingdoms. House Martell could have waged war until the end of days. But
I believe
how could
it.
we resist a peace we could take to bed? For centuries, the Iron Throne had no more loyal ally than the princes of Dorne. Since we had never fallen to them, we kept our ancestral title. Perhaps this is what drew Rhaegar Targaryen to us. His royal parents had not produced a sister for him to wed, so he had to look elsewhere for a princess. And there was only
Elia.
one in Westeros, Elia of House Martell,
Damn.
my sister. She was not the most beautiful woman in the world or even in Dorne, but rare for a woman from our land. Her flower came with no thorns. She was kind
Okay.
and clever, with a gentle
Right.
heart. I loved her. I feared for her. For years I fended off lesser men from her. But when Rhaegar came, even I failed. He was beautiful
Damn, dude.
and the crown
Love to
prince
see
of
that
the
win.
7 kingdoms. And our mother had worked so hard to secure the match, how could Elia not accept him? They were wed, and he took her from her home, from those who loved her and would die for her, and locked her in his red keep above his sty of a city surrounded
That's
by
horrendous,
false
dude.
friends.
I feel Oberyn's
She bore
pain.
him a daughter and a son, though each almost cost her life. Elia loved Rhaegar. She obeyed him, and he chose to steal away Lyanna Stark, a pale northern girl whose veins ran with ice like all her people. Instead of
Oh,
disciplining his
that's his
faithless
take of
son,
Stark.
King Aerys executed the Starks when they came seeking justice, and ignited a revolt. I know how the Maesters describe the war now, but calling it Robert's Rebellion does not change what it was. The War of the
Ooh.
Usurper. Dorne sided with the crown, for when we swear oaths, we keep them. We needed no threats from King Aerys, though he made them anyway, locking
Okay, so
Elia
they
and her
keep their
children
oaths.
in the Red Keep to ensure our loyalty. Even in his madness, he knew that no true Dornishman would ever take up arms against our beloved princess, and that we would fight to the death for whichever side she was on. At the Trident, Dorne lost 10,000 men and 2 princes. My uncle in the King's Guard
Wow.
and Elia's gallant husband, Prince Rhaegar, who was
Yeah,
too slow or too
true.
arrogant for Robert's war hammer. As Robert's army marched on King's Landing, the Mad King sent his own wife and child away, but kept my sister and hers inside. In his madness, Aerys thought
Yeah,
that the
that's
Dornish
shit.
had betrayed his son at the Trident, and was only too happy to welcome his one true friend back into his ranks, Tywin Lannister.
So the Mad King's stupidity made her
Lord
vulnerable.
Tywin's
Yeah.
army sacked his friend's city, while Lord Tywin's son murdered the king he'd sworn to protect. All this could have been forgiven. War is terrible, and men must become terrible to wage it. But the Lannisters knew that as long as my sister and her children, Prince Rhaegar's heirs, lived, no usurper could safely sit the throne. So Lord Tywin's dog, Sir Gregor Clegane, the Mountain, made
damn
Elia watch
mountain.
as he murdered her daughter and dashed her infant son's head against a wall. Then, with her
Far
baby's
out, dude.
blood
Could you
still in
imagine
his
that?
hands, he raped my sister and murdered her. When Lord Tywin later presented their bodies to Robert Baratheon wrapped in
Disgusting.
pretty Lannister cloaks, I have been told the red color graciously hid the blood from men's eyes. The Targaryens talk of fire and blood. In Dorne, our blood is fire. If Robert Baratheon had dared set foot in Dorne during his reign,
That's
he
pretty
would have
cool.
lost the foot. And it is not even him we blame for Elia. The Lannisters think their gold buys them power. The Lannisters think their mountain
Love the way he
buys
says
them
that.
strength. But if they want peace, they cannot buy it with mountains of gold or one mountain of steel. They must
That's
pay
true.
in blood.
Man, how badly I wish he won that fight, dude. His conviction, his voice, determination, like he's just got everything,
But
man.
all of that, he's not a very black and white person, right? He knows things aren't just so black and white. And he knew, okay, things happen, wars are bad, men die, but the love he had for his sister and his family, that's all he was talking about that whole time.
Yeah.
Not some silly feud about power and whatnot.
Yeah.
He's just seeing things for how they are, clearly. Regardless of what he likes, who he likes, what he knows has to be done.
Yeah, no, I love Oberyn. It was really cool hearing his perspective and the passion in his voice. It's just, oh man, I was spewing that we already see him for a season.
I know.
Not even a full season. Like, I would have loved to see him so much more.
That might be the last time we hear his voice.
Now we've got The Death of Kings by Varys. I believe this one has one part where we've got to skip about a minute. So if you see us sifting the mouse, it's just because we're keeping an eye on the time code.
So Death of Kings would be interesting because Joffrey, potentially Rob, and who knows what other kings. I mean,
It's always interesting
Robert.
hearing Varys' point of view anyway.
Yeah, he's an intriguing character.
The Maesters tell us that Aegon came to Westeros with fire and blood, and hammered 6 kingdoms into one. Fire he undoubtedly brought, as the kings of the Rock, Reach, and Iron Islands learned. But blood has never been in short supply here, ever since the first men carried a crown into
No
Westeros.
shit.
This first king united his people against the Children of the Forest, and is supposedly buried in the north, a victim of a war he started. The first ruler of this land and the first to die on his throne, but not nearly the last. For thousands of years afterwards, 1,000 kings rose and fell, dying in their beds, in their battles, in their guards and mistresses' arms. The age of heroes sounds pretty, until you realize what makes a hero, killing the enemies of his king. And to a king, there is no greater
that perspective
enemy
from
than
Varys.
other kings. The Starks and Boltons, the Gardeners and Storm Kings, the Ironborn and everyone else. Even the mighty Targaryens were not immune from shortened reigns. Aegon's own son, Maegor the Cruel, was killed by the very Iron Throne his father had forged, if you believe the tales. If you don't, then perhaps the Cruel is not a wise name for a king to earn. Daeron, first of his name, tried to finish his ancestors' work and bring Dawn into the fold. For his efforts, he lost 60,000 men and his own life of 18 years.
Damn.
A war of 5 kings can end only one way, with the death of 4. Yet even in times of peace, a wise ruler knows that when men bend the knee to a king, too often they rise holding daggers.
Yeah, damn.
A bit shorter. Unfortunately, we had to skip a minute there.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I'm curious of what happened, but it's just going to be the theme of this one. Unfortunately, a way of keeping our reactions as pure as possible.
Don't worry, we'll find out eventually. But that is right. Like, he puts things so elegantly. Like, the War of 5 Kings means that 4 are going to end up dead.
Yeah.
Truth on truth on truth from Varys.
He just sees the bigger picture.
Yeah.
He's a very wise character. All right. Another opportunity to hear our boy Oberyn's wonderful voice.
Yay, I'm excited.
Talking about poisons this time.
Maybe he'll talk about how he tried to kill the mountain.
Well, I don't know if this talks, because I believe these were said to be at the start of each season, so I don't think the point of them is to talk on behalf of the end of each season. So technically at this stage of this, things haven't happened yet.
Okay.
Because you can sort of gather that too. A lot of that's like an introduction almost, like from Oberyn. Had we watched it at the beginning, for example, you'd be familiar with his sort of history a bit more coming into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any man who calls a poison a woman's weapon is a traitor to his fellow men. Dagger, arrow, axe, these are the arms
love
of
him.
passion. But poison is cold, calculating. Poison is the thought that wakes you in the morning and lulls you to sleep at night. You watch your victim die 1,000 times before you ever offer him that fateful taste. Is a man's hate so inferior to a woman's that we are to be denied such a weapon? When I was a boy of 16, a great lord caught me with his mistress. He should have been honored.
Of course.
Instead, the fat old fool challenged me to a duel. thanks to my age and status, only to first blood. But his mistress and his wife warned me which of my parts he intended to draw first blood from. He was strong and fierce, but slow. I cut him quickly,
Didn't
and
end
the
well
duel
for
ended
him.
with honor satisfied. Then
But he's
his
poisoned.
wounds festered, and he died. Ever since, men have called me the Red Viper, a name
That's
that never fails to draw
why.
a laugh from me, as if a single serpent was all I knew of venom. Essence of nightshade is
Interesting.
the gentlest of poisons. A drop dissolved into wine will slow a pounding heart and stop a hand from shaking. 3 drops will grant a night of deep and dreamless sleep. 10 drops, and you will have a sleep
Dead.
that does not end. Basilisk blood. It will give cooked meat a savory smell, but if eaten, it produces violent madness in beasts as well as men. A mouse will attack a lion after a taste of basilisk blood.
Oh
But
my
to a man who knows
god.
his art,
Wow.
is not passion a form of madness? Widow's
Passion a
blood
form of
forces a man's
madness.
bladder and bowels
Great
to
take.
fail. He drowns in his own poisons, a slow and painful death. It has earned its name many times, I am sure. The tears of Lys, a rare and costly poison. Clear, tasteless, and odorless. Dissolved in wine or water, it eats at a man's bowels. He dies in agony, which will not appear unusual if the victim is old or sickly.
So
A
brutal,
favorite
man.
tool of impatient heirs. Across the world, on certain islands
that
of the Jade
Liza's
Sea,
husband? Maybe
grows a
that's how
certain
he died.
plant. The leaves must be aged and soaked in a wash of limes, sugar water, and certain rare spices from the summer isles. Afterward, the potion must be thickened with ash and allowed to crystallize. The process is slow and difficult, the necessaries costly and hard to acquire. The alchemists of Lys know the way of it, and the faceless men of Bravos and the maesters. Dissolved in
refers to them,
wine, it
faceless
makes the
men.
muscles of a man's throat
That's what they are.
clench tighter than any fist. A victim's face turns as purple as the little crystal seed from which his death
Oh, is
was
that the
born.
one we saw from Joffrey then?
Think
And
so.
we call it the Strangler.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which of these
Sam
vials
is
would I take
literally
from
a
its shelf,
professional.
you may ask? None. To kill a man at his table or in his bed bores me. To toil hours over a boiling pot, measuring and stirring, bores me.
Yep.
How life begins is always entertaining, and my kind must make sure its end is worth our wait.
Lovely. Loved it. Fantastic.
I'm just so mesmerized how he speaks. Like, just like Varys, it's so eloquent and he has a way of putting things and he just sees the world in such a unique way, and it's always intriguing to listen to.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I've never cared to listen to a 3-minute talk about poisons, but when in Oberyn's voice, I could keep going. Like, it's great.
I did like his perspective on passion is a form of madness, though.
Great take, yeah.
It is, isn't it? Because, like, that passion, say, for the Iron Throne or for more power or for whatever it is, or your family name,
Yeah.
it always ends up being your downfall if you go too mad in that passion, I guess.
Yeah. Nah. Oberyn. As I keep saying, could have done with a lot more from him.
I know. I can't wait to go back and watch it and just enjoy his presence.
So then we have The Nations of the North by Tormund. Interesting. I didn't expect that from Tormund.
Giant's Bane.
Because Tormund is the one that was with Ygritte, yeah?
Yeah,
the
yeah,
head-
like
the
the
one-
red-headed
yeah.
one, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, because he's still alive. Okay, cool. This will be interesting.
Wildlings. I suppose that's flattery coming from you southerners to kneel to a pig if your daddy did. We call ourselves the Free Folk. Or at least, most of us won't kill you for calling us so. Some will, aye. But that's just the way of it in the true north. Beyond your great white wall. Where your
True
laws
north,
and
cool.
kingdoms end. And men live free. And die cold. For we live close to our land, and she's a terrible wife. Fail to obey her, and she kills you.
Yeah,
On frozen
true.
shore, so deep is the snow that men ride chariots made of walrus bones pulled by packs of dogs.
Damn.
The Hornfords have it easy in the mountains. The cold so hardens and blackens the soles of their feet that they don't even need boots. The cave people
Can you imagine
spend their
that?
lives in the dark, doing gods know what with gods know who, or what. The Thens have one of the only nice bits of land up here. A valley in the far north, near the end of the Frostfangs, with game, copper, and tin for shiny bronze weapons.
Yeah, but they just
Better
eat
than
people.
the rusted old blades most of us have. With such advantages, they could be a generous, friendly race. They're not. As young boys, they burn their faces and rub ash and dirt into their wounds.
Oh, it's
Oh,
the
are
actual
those the
journey.
bald
Face,
ones
I
that would
think.
be
Yeah.
cannibals?
They
Yeah.
follow their Magnar, who's the kind of man who can rule these kinds of men. I know what you Southerners are thinking. And no, the Magnar is not a king. More like their god. Though not one
Oh.
you'd care to
Reminds me of
follow
Xerxes.
if you don't sleep with your eyes open. Then there are the giants. A proud race, as old as the Frostfangs, and about as tough. They speak the old tongue, when they speak at all, though they understand more common than they let on. They're not
Okay,
the
interesting.
monsters you Southerners think. Once I was caught in a winter storm so cold,
Like how they got respect
I
for
knew
the
I'd
giants.
freeze to death before it broke. Lucky for me, I stumbled on a sleeping giant, cut open her belly, and crawled right up inside her. Kept me warm enough, but the stink nearly done me.
Oh my
worst
god.
Gee, that
When
took
she
a dark
woke
turn.
up, she took me for her babe. Suckled me for 3 whole moons before I could get away.
Oh, so she didn't die.
But there's times I still miss the taste of giant's milk. I thank the gods she was in a good mood and lacked a husband. And
He's a
angry
special
giant
character, isn't he?
who want no part of that. Whatever our differences,
What an experience,
one
dude.
thing unites us. When we look south, we see hundreds of feet of ice piled high, manned by shivering crows in black cloaks. Our wardens penning us up here, warning us away from warmer lands, softer beds, and prettier girls.
Yeah.
But the cold winds are rising. The Hornfords couldn't stand against them, nor the Thens, nor the giants. First, they kill you, then they send your dead against you. We faced
Yeah, the
extinction,
whites.
every one of us. But then man's raider came to us and rallied every nation of the free folk, as no man
Yeah.
ever has.
I see why
He
they
was
love
a
him.
crow once and knows your ways. For thousands of years, we've sucked fear of your kind from our mother's teat. We've been on one side of the wall and you on the other. No more. One of these nights, you're going to hear a knock on your front door. You best not answer.
Oh, they answered all right. Don't you worry. Our boy John.
Yeah, I don't mind Tormund though. He's an interesting character.
Yeah.
He also goes in that grey area. You know, there's a lot to him.
Yeah, and it gives you a lot of insight into how people are actually surviving, I guess, the wildlings or free folk are trying to survive on the other side of the wall. Obviously, like, they all have different lands and some better than others, some better equipment than others, and it's just a horrendous world to, like, live in and try and survive.
Yeah.
I mean, that story with the giant, how crazy was that?
Yeah, wow, interesting that the giant is just unfazed. But again, the experiences they go through is very different to the experiences you get in Westeros and
Yeah.
on the side of the wall that everyone else is on.
But isn't it funny? Like, I feel like at the start of watching Game of Thrones, it was, oh, the wildlings and whatnot. And they just seemed like they weren't even human.
Yeah.
But throughout the series, it's become more apparent that they are. But I think even listening to Tormund just then, you really see that they are just human. They are just like everyone else on the other side of the world. They're just living in different conditions and found different ways to survive.
It almost reminds me of the King's Landing and just the south side of the wall in general reminds me more of, like, let's say, the Roman Empire, whereas the wildlings are like the Vikings. So they're just much more adventurous, free-spirited, and expressive, and they're not as ruled by laws and strict rules and fancy clothing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, the Romans are a bit more classier, a bit more civilized from that aspect. So that's sort of how I see those two factions. Okay, so we got Justice of the Seven Kingdoms by Bronn. That's interesting. Again, we got some different characters this time around, and
Yeah.
some smaller players like Tormund and now Bronn giving their take. I find that pretty cool because you get a bit of a take from somebody who's not necessarily super biased on either end. In this case, anyway. Now, this one, there is another very little. This one's smaller. It's about 10 seconds spoiler that we'll be keeping an eye on. So again, if you see the mouse moving around, just ignore it.
Justice is a funny thing. For the poor, it's what keeps them alive. And starving. Depending on how the local lord feels about his woods, his streams, his crops.
True.
For the rich, justice is what you get if you're not careful enough. Or rich enough. Usually how it works is, you commit a crime and the local lord sends his guards after you. Or your victim's family kills you and the guards go after them instead. Or you do nothing and the guards come after you anyway. Either way, someone is brought before the lord and he decides what's to be done. Could be a fine if you're rich enough to pay it. Otherwise, it's the dungeons, the chopping block, or the wall.
Depends on his
You'd think
mood.
most folks would choose the wall. The north is nasty, dark and cold, but so are most dungeons. And every man knows how the Night's Watch earn their name. All they can do is watch. I don't blame the men who choose a quick chop rather than life without one of its few joys. If you're in the capital, it's the king's justice who takes your head. Elsewhere in the south, the headsman of the local lord. But in the north, it's the lord himself. The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword,
Ned.
they say up there. Sounds noble.
My
but
boy
given
Ned.
some of the northern lords I've met, they just don't want anyone else spoiling their fun. If
Nah,
you're so
Ned wasn't
unlucky
like
to
that.
be in the Vale when you're caught, you might never make it to sentencing thanks to their sky cells. Open on one
screw
side
that.
to a long fall, with the floor
I know
sloping
Tyrion
down
almost
towards
fell out of
the wooden
one.
thighs. After a few days, they say the sky starts calling to you. Men jump with smiles on their faces, expecting the wind to lift them into the sky. It doesn't. To think Lord
Damn,
Tyrion was
imagine
one
that.
tit-shaped cloud away from death.
Yeah.
Lucky for him, he was highborn. If your family honour goes back hundreds of years to a time when your ancestors hit other men harder than they were hit, you have another option. Trial by combat.
I love the way he
You
puts
either
that.
fight
I know.
your accuser, or you both pick champions to fight on your behalf, and the gods will favour the righteous man. As long as he's also the strongest, the quickest, or the luckiest. Once in a long while, you may get two real high-born shits having a go at each other. And one of them might be fool enough to demand a trial by 7. Exactly how it sounds. 7 men against 7 men. Makes for a good show, I guess.
Trial
Any
by
man who's been in
7.
battle knows that the more men involved, the less skill needed, the more chance of accidents. If you ever find yourself arrested in the 7 kingdoms, just remember that justice is up to the judge. Beg him for forgiveness, or pay him for it, or ask to be
Yeah.
allowed to take the black.
But it's
But
never
remember
really
that
justice,
he
is
doesn't have
it?
to let you. There are plenty of lords out there who think hands and heads are great decorations for their spikes.
Oh,
Yeah, we
Joffrey.
know one of those
Septons
snakes.
claim that justice is of the gods. Nice of them to keep it up there to themselves.
He was just really matter of fact. Like, if you get in trouble, this is what's going to happen. If you're in this place, different factions have different rules and the way they see things. And
Brian always just cuts to the bullshit.
Yeah.
I like it. I like even how I didn't realise the trial by combat is only for those of the higher, more noble families. I thought it was
Yeah.
a basic right. And he was saying, I just love how he put it. He goes, if hundreds of years ago your ancestors beat up other ancestors long enough, you get this extra right. You know, pretty
I
much
know.
just putting it simply, that's how you become a highborn, you know.
But how crazy is that? Because, okay, so you're highborn, but you're allowed to let the gods decide your fate by trial by combat. But if you were lower born, not so much. You're just dead regardless, depending on the mood of the lord at the time.
Yep.
Wow.
So this one is called The Bastards of Westeros by Elaria Sand.
Oh, Ilaria Sand is, I think, Prince Oberyn's
Okay, that's what I was...
girlfriend or whatever she
That
was.
was my guess, because that was the only white person's name that sounded like it would suit Elaria. It's very Oberyn would go for someone called Elaria, you know.
Ilaria.
Sex. A simple word for a simple act.
Of course, that'll be her subject.
Men complicate it. A child born to a wife is a gift from the gods. A child born to a mistress or an obedient serving girl is a bastard, unworthy of its father's name. So instead, we
Yeah,
call the
that's
children
shit.
after the land where they were born. Flowers in the Reach and Hill in the Westerlands. Stone in the Vale and Storm in the Stormlands. Rivers in the Riverlands and Waters in the Crownlands. Pike in the Iron Islands, Snow in the North, and in Dorne, Sand. By these names,
That's why she's a
everyone
bastard,
can
yeah.
recognize a bastard, even if his own father won't. Though sometimes a father with too much gold and daughters will ask the king to legitimize a bastard son and give him his family name.
Like
If
Ramsay.
his wife objects, the next one does not. But sometimes the gods play their jokes, and later his wife will give him a true-born son of their own. When this happens, well, children die all the time. So do fathers. Even the beautiful
Damn.
Targaryens had bastards when brothers tired of their sisters. Many took the name Blackfire after the Conqueror's own sword. When Aegon the Unworthy legitimized all his bastards on his deathbed, they rose up against his true
Aegon the Unworthy.
Westeros bled. Dorne yawned. For most of Westeros, the Blackfire Rebellion only proved what they already knew. Bastards are treacherous, born of lust and shame. But here in Dorne, lust is not shameful. We know that bastardy does not
very
make
different
a
way
man
of
more
life.
treacherous than another. Man does not need the help.
I'd like to see Dawn.
I like that. Man does not need the help to be like more treacherous and whatnot than another.
Yeah, okay. A little bit of a summary there on bastards.
Yeah. It was interesting to hear her say like children die all the time, and before that she was kind of snickering a little bit. I think that was just her saying like the wife would just kill the
Well, I
husband.
couldn't
and
tell.
whatnot.
It was hard to tell how much of that story was her talking from her own experience.
Yeah.
And I was wondering whether did she have to kill a sibling or something to keep herself important enough. I couldn't tell if there was. She was saying a new boy was born legitimate, and was that like her half brother or something? That's what I was getting a vibe of, but I'm not sure there.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure.
You guys can let us know in the comments.
But it was interesting hearing her say that, because with the discussion between Prince Oberyn and Cersei, Prince Oberyn was saying that children don't die all the time in Dawn and like we treat them well and things like that. And Cersei had the opinion of no, they just get treated like shit everywhere, not just here in Westeros, and Dawn isn't exempt of that. So it was interesting to hear Ilaria, who is from Dawn, have that different perspective to what Oberyn did. Okay, so this one is Sellswords and Hedge Knights by Bronn. I have no idea what Hedge Knights are, but
Sellsword pretty much sums it up. A poor man has a sword. A rich man needs a man with a sword. Gold is exchanged. If the poor man knows how to use the sword,
So
maybe
simple.
he becomes the rich man. One way or another. I'm sure sellswords have a long and illustrious history, but if you meet a sellsword who knows it, best hire someone else. A sellsword should be good at one thing, getting paid to kill people. It's not an easy job. Most people try to kill you back, and at least a few of them know how. The ones that don't, well, they often come in enough pretty armour to ruin an afternoon. A lot of high lords turn their noses up at sellswords. They say they can't trust a man who sells his allegiance to the highest bidder. I don't blame them.
yeah.
Much cheaper for them to own an army from birth, either by people being on their lands or by their ancestors swearing a few oaths. But here's the thing. No sellsword has ever fled from the winning side. If your hired companies are running away from you, it's because you're not on that side. And you didn't pay them enough to die with you.
True.
Not that you could. Sellswords don't get rich dying for their lords. Sellswords don't really get rich. Some of the Eastern companies on Essos do fine. The Golden Company, the Second Sons, the Windblown. Always a bit of fighting to be
Second
had in the
Sons,
free
yeah.
cities. Even if those merchant princes can be as tight as an old man's cunt. But then you're stuck in the heat and dust, hoping some dumb rich prick doesn't try to hire your company to fight Dothraki.
Oh my god.
Because your dumb greedy captain would probably take it. Hedge Knights, now, are a different breed. Take a
Okay.
sellsword and remove the sense. They get their name from where they sleep, under the edges of the Seven Kingdoms, in ditches, in stables. They don't have the family name or the purse like real knights, so they spend all their money on armour and a horse, and ride in tourney after tourney in the hope of impressing some lord or winning some prize. One loss, and
Damn.
a lot of them are ruined. They
It's a
can't
brutal
ransom back
existence.
their armour. even if they win. Think what a knight's good for. Killing men. You know how you train for killing men? By trying to kill men. Not prancing round with a blunted stick, bowing and waiting your turn. Maybe you think I'm just insulting the competition so you hire me instead. Well, of course I am. So don't hire me. Hire a sellsword with educated heirs who tells you all about the great battles he's heard of. Or a hedge knight who's won a few tourneys starting to build his name. And the man you're fighting against? He hires me.
Almost
Damn.
like a marketing pitch there at the end.
Yeah, I know. It's like, use me, I want to be rich. But he's off now going to get
Becoming
married
a lord, yeah.
to some prince. I don't know. What is she? I guess like some
Doesn't matter,
highborn.
he's becoming a lord.
Yeah. Oh my God. Damn, Bron.
Hopefully we'll see more of him.
Yeah, I think I'm most upset that we're not going to see the interactions with him and Tyrion now because Tyrion's shipped off. But
You never know. So we've got House Baelish by Peter Baelish.
I'm excited for this one.
From the east coast of the Vale, the fingers reach out into the narrow sea. 4 rocky peninsulas plagued by wind and rain, and barren to all but the hardiest of weeds. The ancestral home of House Baelish. Our house began with my great-grandfather, a Bravosi sellsword who came to the Vale at the invitation of House Corbray.
That's right.
My
It's originally
grandfather raised
Bravosi.
himself to the status of hedge knight, and even managed to acquire a bit of land and a keep on the smallest of the fingers, though I do believe he often missed sleeping under his titular hedges. The only thing worse than owning a dreary and desolate land is owning only a small portion of it. Luckily, I didn't spend much time there as a child. During the War of the Ninepenny Kings, a cheap name for a cheap cause, where other men fought for the king my father fought to befriend Hoster Tully, Lord Paramount of the Trident and head of one of the oldest and greatest houses in Westeros.
And that's how they
Thanks
knew
to
each
my
other.
father's heroic efforts, Lord Hoster agreed to foster me at Riverrun with his own children. Until then, my whole world had been a small tower on the gull-stained rocks of the Fingers. But when I first saw the stone walls of Riverrun rising from the Trident, towering over me, back then I was a little more easily impressed. The boy in me thought the gods themselves must live in such a place.
Oh, he
I
was
soon
very
learned
ambitious, hey?
otherwise. Lord Tully's son, Edmure, was quick to ensure I would never forget myself in their house. He nicknamed me Littlefinger, after my size and homeland, and the name was just cruel enough to stick.
Oh, I
His
didn't know
sisters,
Edmure named him.
Lysa and Catelyn, made me a pawn in their kissing game, traded back and forth between them for practice. Needless to say, I enjoyed spending time with them more than Edmure.
Man was winning.
As we grew older, the game began to change, as all games do. Lysa grew more bold, and Cat more demure. When Lord Tully announced Cat's betrothal to a brute from the north whom she'd never met, I realized her duty would outweigh any feelings she had for me. Fool that I was, I challenged this Brandon Stark to a duel for her hand.
Damn.
He was a
Did not go
warrior,
well.
I was a boy. If
Oh no,
Cat had
with the
not
howl.
intervened, he would have killed me and laughed over my corpse. For my insolence,
Shit.
Lord Tully banished me from Riverrun. No matter. I had learned everything I needed by then.
That's
would
why
fight
I didn't know he got
battles not with
banished.
swords, but with wits. A few men could match me. Even
Oh,
then,
don't we know
House
it.
Baelish might have died out on the rocks of the Fingers. I was again a poor lord, with no allies and no prospects, except, if I were lucky, the daughter of a middling merchant. Then, opportunity arose. The Mad King executed that Brandon Stark and incited a rebellion. My old friend, Lysa Tully, was married off to John Arryn, Lord of the Vale, to cement the alliance against the Iron Throne, bringing her within my circle again. I quickly capitalized on our former affection and persuaded her to have me appointed as controller of customs at Gulltown, the Vale's greatest port. Wars burn gold
he
like
maneuvered men.
wildfire. When I increased the port's income tenfold, her husband took notice of this lowly lord from the Fingers, and when the new and profligate King Robert needed a master of coin who could find gold where no one else could, why, Lord Arryn knew just the man.
Oh
Once,
my
House Baelish
goodness.
had no lands, no name, and no gold. Now we have quite a lot of each. What new rung will the next generation climb? Let us not be hasty. I'm not finished yet.
Damn. Wow.
Far out.
I don't know if we ever got it put like that much context to how early he'd planned it, even from before Robert was a king. He was already took advantage of that whole usurper situation. Like, wow.
Yeah, like he sees things so far into the future, and he really just sees any opportunity and will snap it up. Like, that is so crazy. It's funny, right? So I didn't realize that he was fostered by the Tullys in Riverrun. Like, I don't know why. I just thought that he grew up with his family in the area and they knew each other. But
Oh no, I knew that they'd mentioned that he lives with them. He was brought up by them.
yeah.
I just didn't realize the context of how that came to be till that.
I must have forgotten that. But yeah, so really, Catelyn and Liza really did play Littlefinger, or at least had some kind of feelings anyways. And that would have started a rivalry between the sisters as well. And then, I mean, we all know how it panned out, don't we? So that is crazy. He is...
Yeah, he ended up benefiting a lot from Liza. He used her many, many times. She helped him rise. And then when she got too crazy, threw her in the bin.
But that's what I mean. He just throws anyone in the bin straight away. As soon as he's done, I mean, even then he said, okay, he got banished from Riverrun, but no matter, I got what I needed from them and I just moved on.
Yeah, but I think that's also a hindsight thing. I think that a lot of his adaptation is everyone kept casting him out and he had nothing to his name. He had to learn to fight and earn everything. So once you do that, you can be very protective over what you've earned.
Yeah, of course.
So in hindsight, it's like, oh, well, no matter. He had developed enough skills to cope at that point and move on. But at the time, I don't believe his intention was to just throw the family in the bin. But he was somebody who moved on and didn't sit there and dwell on the past, which is obviously why he's been so successful given his origins.
Damn, Littlefinger. Keeping an eye on you.
So we got Dragons by Grand Maester Pycelle.
What does this guy know?
Pudgy's favourite person to listen to.
What does he know? Nothing.
We have another little skip of about 30 seconds coming up, so we'll keep an eye out for that.
Let's see what the Sneaky Snake has to say.
Fire made flesh. Such is the nature of dragons, claim the Eastern mystics. For once they may have a point, though not the one they think. Fire consumes, leaving at its end naught but ash. Thus the fate of the Targaryens and their dragons. Thousands of years ago, Valyrian stumbled on the first dragon eggs in the mountains of the 14 Fires. I cannot imagine shepherds could hatch dragon eggs and bind such creatures to their will, but whatever aid they must have had is lost to history. Every educated person knows how the Dragon Lords then conquered most of the known world, breaking the ancient Giscari Empire, enslaving a continent, building roads and bridges that still stand today.
I don't hear you stuttering, Pycelle.
An empire of marvels and misery. And now what is left of Valyria? A smoking wasteland. Ash. In time, Aegon Targaryen and his sisters brought their 3 dragons who had escaped the doom to Westeros, perhaps thinking to regain his people's lost glory. And so he did. On the field of fire, he proved that armies were no match for dragons. At Harrenhal, he proved that mighty castles weren't either. Aegon Targaryen became Aegon the Conqueror, first of his name, founder of a dynasty. His first act, to order his dragon Balerion, the Black Dread, to melt the swords of his beaten foes into his new Iron Throne. Used to line the throne room of the Red Keep in order of birth. The oldest, Balerion, could swallow an ox whole. The last skull was barely the size of a dog's. Yet the Targaryens never stopped trying to revive their dragons. Aerion Brightflame drank a draught of wildfire and burned to death.
Oh my god.
Tried to hatch stone dragon eggs with sorcery and burned to death. Against these, Aerys II looks almost sensible. He only burned other men to death. Now we hear rumors that the young Daenerys Targaryen has hatched 3 dragons far to the east.
She
If
did
she
not
were
burn
to
to
be
death,
so
my
foolish as
friend.
to march on Westeros, she will not find, as her ancestor Aegon did, 7 disparate kingdoms frightened by her strange beasts. She will find a continent united behind Lord Tywin Lannister, who extinguished her own father's
Not anymore.
flame. And we have known dragons now. We have seen them die.
That's interesting. There's even a bit of foreshadowing there that they're not just all separate cities now. They are
United.
more united, and they've had time to prepare. Who knows what? I mean, we know that they've made their own wildfire.
Yeah.
Who knows what else they've got in store to be able to defend against dragons, especially given she's only got 3. Yeah, they've had time.
Well, that's
Different.
all Aegon Targaryen used. 3, wasn't it? Because it was him and his
True,
two
they were fully
sisters.
grown, but yeah, true. Might have only been 3 as well. But now we've only got 1 master using 3. It's different.
But either way, Pycelle's arrogance for me just was not it. And I didn't hear him stutter not once. The act is up. The gig is up.
Yeah.
Damn Pycelle.
We've got the Kingsguard by Bronn. Now we've got a bit of a, this is the last skip we've got. So we've got a bit of a skip coming up here as well. And then we'll be done with the skips.
Perfect.
Most boys dream of becoming a Kingsguard. Rich boys from good families get a chance. Smart boys stay at home and sing songs about them instead, opening purses and thighs, because the
Take on
Kingsguard isn't really
everything.
good for much else.
Oh, God.
Arthur Dane, Gerald Hightower. Sure, if half the stories about them are true, they could swing a sword better than most. Makes their lives even more of a waste. Bodyguards to the maddest king the 7 kingdoms ever saw. Watching their king burn men alive. Standing guard as their king raped his queen.
Yeah, how
Hiding
can
the
you do
Stark girl
that?
Prince Rhaegar stole away, causing a war that toppled their king. And all this
That would definitely take
without
a toll on
any gold
you.
or women to show for it. Stupid buggers. The only one with any sense was Jaime Lannister. When his father stormed
Yeah.
the city,
Go,
he put
Jaime.
a sword through the Mad King's back rather than die gloriously at his post. He's still here. They're not. Even if
True.
the Kingsguard are the greatest knights
Bronn
in the
understands
realm,
Jamie a bit better than
knights
most.
are just asses in armour, riding whatever horse their daddies gave them.
Hmm.
Putting on a white cloak doesn't make a man smarter or bolder. It's just a
I like
funny
that.
little curtain. Behind it is the same
A funny
pile of
little
shit.
curtain.
Same pile of shit. Bronn. Bron's great. Bronn next to Oberyn is very enjoyable to listen to.
Yeah, because they do cut through all the bullshit, and he is right. Just because you put on a cloak doesn't make you any better than anyone else, any smarter, any stronger, any braver. I mean, damn Tyrion went full force against Stannis, and other knights were just backing out, weren't they? So he is right. It doesn't really mean much. It's just a whole load of bullshit, really,
Yep.
and that everyone buys into.
The Maester's Chain by Qyburn.
Maybe.
Is that how you pronounce it?
So the Maester's Chain, I don't know if you remember from the other histories and lore, it was certain chains meant that they were masters of certain
right.
things. Yeah.
Who's Qyburn?
I don't know. Have we met this person?
Is that Cersei's Maester that she's been using by any chance?
Oh, probably.
Might be, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then that's not how you say his name, is it then?
I don't know. I don't know. People correct us. I'm not fussed.
You can hear a maester coming long before you see him, thanks to the
is.
jangling
Yeah.
chains he's forced to wear around his neck. It's meant to remind him of his servitude, like the collar of a dog. He can't remove it, even to sleep. Each
Oh, what
ring
the hell?
signifies mastery, or at least what those withered old men in the Citadel consider mastery, of
Yeah.
a different area of study. Gold for the study of sums and accounts, silver for healing, iron for war, black iron for ravenry, lead for poisons, and Valyrian steel for the higher mysteries. Only one maester in 100
mysteries.
forges such a link. Only one
Wow.
maester in 100 has
Wow.
the sense the gods gave a goat. Though I admit that no one has performed true magic in centuries. We sit in a room, mumbling over a candle of dragon glass, trying to make it catch fire. After a sleepless night of failure, we're supposed to admit to our own limitations.
To win the link, we are supposed to lose our curiosity.
Right, I like that.
In time, the Archmaesters decided more links were useless to a man who wouldn't be chained by them. They took my chain and expelled me from the Citadel. Their loss.
Their loss,
The chain
for
as
sure.
a whole is supposed to signify the realm. One cannot have only lords or only knights. One needs farmers, smiths, merchants, shepherds, and the like. Like a chain forged of many different metals. An obvious and trivial point, disguised with pomposity. Much like the maesters themselves. They study without learning, and proudly pass down the same knowledge that was passed down to them.
Great
with no
lines.
addition.
Oh no.
Perhaps such is to be expected when one considers the kinds of men who become maesters. The youngest sons of noble families, dutiful and timid, raised in the shadow of their older brothers. Or bastards and peasant boys whose minds are easily satisfied by the knowledge of their next meal. Because bold men will not be chained. They dare to ask questions that the maesters fear to answer.
I
They
love
will look at a
it.
living man and ask, how? And they will look at the dead and ask, what if?
Wow.
What if?
I wonder if he'll be a useful proponent of the battles to come.
Oh, I hope so, because
Got the mind for it.
yeah, we really could have used him ages ago. I mean, if we had him in King's Landing and he wasn't banished ages ago, who knows? Robert might have been alive still.
True.
Like if
Although
he can,
Cersei wouldn't have wanted to use that.
yeah, true.
The snake.
I know, but he was the king, so she didn't really have a choice back then. But he has some great lines, like they want people to lose their curiosity, and they just want people who are brainwashed to think what they want them to know, you know, in terms of like King's Landing and things like that.
Yeah.
And then to study without learning, and bold men won't be chained. There's such great lines, and I love his outlook. I mean, you have to be curious. You have to be willing to step outside those lines and be bold to learn something and to
And
make
you
a difference.
You can draw parallels from that with a lot of our education systems as well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear him talking like that.
Yeah.
Very relatable.
Well, I mean, we literally saw him with the mountain saying, no, maybe, just maybe he can make a difference. And Pycelle's like, nah, nothing can be done. Just leave him.
Yep. And most great thinkers are often initially shunned and thought to be crazy. And then later on, everyone loves what they've got to offer.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got The Iron Bank by Tycho Nestoris.
I don't know this person.
Interesting. This Histories and Law, a lot of smaller names than the others.
Maybe he was one of the people from the Iron Bank that was talking to Stannis or so.
Yeah, potentially.
But it'll be interesting to hear about the Iron Bank because we haven't heard too much.
The Iron Bank dates from when Braavos was still the secret city, filled with runaways and refugees from the Valyrian slave lords. The first tradesmen to achieve success realized that if they pooled their resources, they could loan money to their less fortunate fellows and build a better Braavos. For a profit, of course.
Oh.
First, they
So
needed
not
a space
with
to
great
store their
intentions.
combined gold, safe from thieves, and more importantly, each other. For the business rivalries that created their fortunes were not easily put aside. They found an abandoned iron mine outside the city and sealed its only entrance with heavy gates and bars, and set guards supplied by every principal investor. Each guard watched the gate, and the other guards. Over time, this distrust vanished
so
as the
funny.
investors gave up their other businesses and poured their energies into the new endeavor.
Oh, that's
now
that thing being
called
built.
the Iron Bank, after
Like that
the mine.
statue.
Okay,
We've since
that's the
moved
origin
to
of the
more
Iron Bank.
spacious quarters, but we still keep our first vault, not merely to remind us of our roots, but because we did not become the world's greatest repository of wealth by wasting assets, no matter
True,
how
okay.
minor.
I like that.
If you're an aspiring merchant, you come to us to buy ships and goods. If you're an aspiring shopkeeper, you come to us to buy your shop. Whatever you need in this world, we are the conduit. Even a
Damn.
throne
Oh, wow.
yours
So they're
if
quite
you're an aspiring
powerful.
king, or stay yours if you're a sitting one.
Oh,
Just ask
damn.
House Lannister of Westeros. We are not the only bank in this world. Every free city has its own, but when those banks need gold, they come to us. We lend
Right.
to princes, kings, merchants, and tradesmen.
If a prince or king can't pay us back, well, the world lacks for loyal men, not ambitious ones. We simply fund the rise of new princes and kings, and they tend to honor
We've heard
our
that
investment.
from Tywin.
If a merchant refuses to repay us, well, the vicissitudes of trade are well known, and Braavos is full of men who are not. One way or another, the Iron Bank will have its due.
Yeah.
Jeez, they just drowned him.
Damn.
Wow, that's harsh.
So they're definitely not afraid to, pay their dues.
Whatever it takes. But yeah, Bravos has sort of been this elusive, mysterious thing going on in the background that even the great Tywin and great Stannis have sort of been fearful of and, careful and cautious around. So I wonder if we'll see more of them in the coming seasons.
Well, Bravos is literally the land with faceless men, which means that they can get those men to do whatever they want.
What, you reckon there's more of Jack and Hagar? Like more of those kind of people?
Potentially. There can't just be one. But that's what it's known for. Like, everyone says it, faceless men.
Yeah, well, we got a taste from Jack and just how easily they can kill people. This guy was killing lots of people.
Yeah. But yeah, it was interesting. Like, we can help you take the throne or keep it. And if there's someone more ambitious and you're not paying your dues, that's it. Like, we're going to help them. And we kind of saw that with Stannis and Davos. Oh, well, Tywin's dead, right? Well, we think he is. So, someone's going to have to pay for the Lannisters not really having gold in their mines anymore.
That's actually a really good point. I hadn't thought of that. That's actually a really good point. Cersei now, because Jaime's Kingsguard, so that basically falls on Cersei. She's been arrogant so far, but only Tywin knew the dealings of the money.
Yeah.
And now wow, that could mean a very different season for the Lannisters, okay?
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Okay, so this is The Wall by our boy Sammy. All right, let's see what he has to say.
Nobody really knows how the wall was built. Yes, every child hears how, in the days of the first men, Brandon the Builder raised the wall with magic and giants and set the Night's Watch to guard it. But nobody thought to write down the story until thousands of years later, and the Septons who did it weren't much for accuracy.
So it could have changed.
They have knights bumbling around thousands of years before they were knights. Sorry, bad habit. But even if magic and giants built the wall, it's the Night's Watch who have held it. Our order of builders repairs the keeps and towers, digs tunnels, crushes stone for roads and footpaths, and clears away trees wherever the forest presses too close to the wall. Or at least it would, if they had the men, and the tools, and the time.
Yeah.
Long ago, when the Night's Watch was at full strength, the builders would quarry blocks of ice from the frozen lakes of the haunted forest, dragging them south on sledges to add to the wall. Now,
so they can't do that
to
now.
look for cracks or signs of melt and make what repairs they can, without men, or tools, or time. The Order of Rangers is the fighting heart of the Night's Watch. They ride beyond the wall, fighting and trading with wildlings, surviving shadow cats and snow leopards. The Rangers are meant to scout out threats to the wall and return to report. And they did, back in the days when men could go north and come back alive.
I was like Ned's
now
brother.
They just come back. The Order of Stewards keeps the Watch alive.
Oh my
we
God.
hunt and farm, tend the
Damn
horses,
whites.
milk the cows, gather firewood, cook the meals and bring supplies from the south. Not so heroic, I know, but since the Night's Watch doesn't starve or freeze, I guess we're
That's
the
something
only
we've
order that
contemplated.
still does everything it's supposed to. Without all of us guarding the wall together, well, it probably still wouldn't have ever fallen. Solid ice rising hundreds of feet into the air and running hundreds of miles to the sea. No army is smashing it anytime soon. Which is why our enemies have never tried. Well, not directly. The brothers Gendel and Gorn, kings beyond the wall, went under the wall, through ancient caves buried deep in the earth. But on the way back they took a wrong turn and were lost in the darkness.
Oh
People
no.
say that their children's children's children are still down there, looking for a way up. Or for
Could
more
you
food to
imagine?
find its way
Jesus,
down.
it's a horror story.
When
You'd
our
freeze to
rangers
death.
found Arson Isaacs picking away at the wall, he was almost halfway through. The rangers decided not to disturb him and sealed the way behind him with ice and stone and snow. Some say if you press your ear flat to the wall, you can still hear Arson chipping away with his axe. 100 years ago,
He's
a
long
legend on
gone.
the wall, Raymond Redbeard, realised the wall's size is both its greatest strength and its greatest weakness. He waited for our patrols to pass and then sent climbers to the now unguarded stretch of the wall. When they
They've
reached
tried
the top,
climbing quite a
they
few
dropped ropes
times.
and ladders for thousands more wildlings to clamber up. The Night's Watch didn't even know his army had crossed until after the Starks and Umbers had cornered and destroyed him. And that was 100 years ago, when the Watch had many more men than now.
Yeah, damn.
Lucky for the Night's Watch, the wall isn't without its own defences. Besides being incredibly tall and thick, the wall is also treacherous. Many times
Yeah,
a patrol
no
will
shit.
find the broken corpses of wildlings who've tried to climb the wall, only for a piece of it to break off mid-climb, or to have
Oh
their
my
hold slip as the
God.
sun melted the ice just enough. When the light strikes the wall just right, it can even look like it's weeping. 1,000 years ago,
Wow.
the Night's Watch could have lined up shoulder to shoulder along the wall, all the way from Eastwatch by the Sea to the Shadow Tower. To
Now
meet
there's
Mance
less than
Rayder and his
100.
army. But now, Mance isn't bothering to find tunnels under the wall or climb over it. He was a sworn brother once. He knows that the glory of the Night's Watch is behind us. Mance is going to try what no man ever has. He's going to come through the wall. One day, I
Damn.
hope
Yeah,
Mace does
wow.
write stories about how we beat him back. Because if we don't, there may not be any more stories to write.
Oh shit, literally.
Sammy boy.
I mean, it was nice hearing Sammy sound a little confident, you know?
And he's always, we know he's got great knowledge on history. He's read a lot of books, so he's well versed,
Yeah.
able to explain a good view of history and everything that's happened.
Yeah. It is interesting, though, that there's been so many different attempts. Like, under, over, like, they've really tried it all, haven't they? Nothing has gotten past the Night's Watch, but like Sammy said, they're not really in their prime after that first attack from Mance. Oh, I wonder how many people there are, how many Night's Watch there are. Probably like 20 or 30.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, not a lot after the attack.
Yeah.
For now, they've got Stannis and his men, but we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah.
Although this cause might finally build Night's Watch back up. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Stannis is the person they're going to be relying on, because if you go to King's Landing, technically that's Baratheon, well, / Lannister, right? So they may not even notify King's Landing. Don't know.
So the Kingsguard by Jaime Lannister. No one better, I think, to tell us about the Kingsguard
Yeah.
properly. So it'd be cool to contrast that from Bronze version as well.
Yeah, and I really do miss hearing Jaime's perspective. I think Cersei's kind of overshadowing him at the moment.
Yep. Yeah, he was bigger in season 3.
Yeah.
All boys dream of becoming knights. The boys with talent dream of becoming Kingsguard. The boys without talent, well, I wouldn't know.
Oh.
The Lord Commander wrote my name down in the White Book, the official record of the Kingsguard. At 16, the youngest member ever to join. Knighted by Sir Arthur and Sir Barristan for valor against the Kingswood Brotherhood. An outlaw had decided to try his luck against a lowly squire. He wasn't using his head, so I took it off him.
Oh,
Shortly
damn.
afterwards, King Harris II, who hadn't yet earned the title of the Mad King, took me into his service. If I have ever been happy, it was that day.
Oh,
Jaime.
Jaime.
Kingsguard had been the glory of the realm. Aegon the Conqueror had established the Order as his personal guardians after uniting Westeros with fire and blood. He knew that some of his subjects wouldn't take to conquest, and his dragons were no use against knives in the dark. No doubt surrounding himself with the greatest knights in Westeros made his rule more palatable and less foreign as well. Everyone in his kingdom soon knew the names and sung the songs of the Kingsguard. I certainly did from my earliest days. Lord Commander Gerald Hightower, the White Bull. Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning. Barristan Selmy, the Bold.
The man.
Martell, Oswald Went, Jonathan Derry, and, soon enough, the boy prodigy.
Jaime Lannister.
We protected the king and his family. We killed his enemies and led his armies. We gave him counsel when asked and kept his secrets when not. We swore to hold no lands, take no wives, and father no children, like the Night's Watch.
It's a big commitment.
Except with a real job to do.
Oh.
Was I proud to see my name
Stop,
inscribed
stop,
in the same
stop.
book as my heroes? Of course not. I was 16 and brilliant. I knew it belonged there. Beside the name of Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight, who wielded the Valyrian sword Dark Sister. He died defending King Aegon the Unworthy from assassins, though the king had insulted Aemon throughout his reign and had well earned his fate. Because Prince Aemon had sworn our oath. Beside the name of Sir Gawain Corbry, who dueled the Targaryen bastard Daemon Blackfyre for an hour during the Battle of the Redgrass Field,
Jesus.
though outmatched and grievously wounded, because Sir Gawain had sworn our oath. Beside the name of Sir Duncan the Tall, who as a hedge knight broke several of Prince Aerion Targaryen's teeth while defending a Dornish woman. He later rose to Lord Commander and burned beside his king at Summerhall, because Sir Duncan had sworn our oath.
Yes.
Shit.
Yeah.
He's making a
Jaime
point.
Lannister. You know how it reads. What I did, even though I had sworn our oath. That was years
Right.
and a hand ago. When I
Years
joined
and
the
hand.
Kingsguard, I fought beside legends in the flesh. Their kind is dust now. And the men who have taken their place? Mud. Sir Boris Blunt, the fat. Sir Marin Trant, the forgettable. Sandor Clegane,
The
the
forgettable.
dog who tucked tail and ran. Like mud, their names soiled the White Book. Almost as much as mine.
Oh,
Damn.
you didn't soil the white book. Stop.
That was well said.
I
That was
know.
really well put. When it was building up, I realized where he was heading with all that. Interesting.
It was interesting that he said before the Mad King earned his name, that's when he was made the Kingsguard. So it'd be interesting to see if he did earn that name first and whether Jamie would want to be part of the Kingsguard knowing what that guy is. Because I just feel like he's not that type of person, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a conflict of interest. He still wanted to rise as a knight and
Yeah.
experience that. But interesting how he's sort of torn between the fact that he did the right thing but didn't live up to his job, which gave him so much status and meaning. So he sort of
Yeah.
wrestles with that still.
Because right now, his hand's gone and he's technically a Kingsguard. So his only status, I guess, comes from being a Lannister. And even that name's quickly going down the drain. So I wonder what this all means for him. I mean, because people know him as an Oathbreaker, which he is not. He's an
Yeah,
Oathkeeper.
Yeah, true. House Martell by the man himself. Let's go.
The man himself.
Unbowed, unbent, unbroken. The words of House Martell. A promise to our enemies and a challenge to our lovers. Thousands of years ago, the warrior queen Nymeria crossed into Dorne from Essos, fleeing the dragon lords of Validia. After she landed, she burned her ships, all 10,000 of them, so no
Damn.
cowards could slink home. What a woman. Dornish in spirit before she ever was in flesh. She was lucky to land in Dorne, where powerful women are not locked away in septs and the beds of old men. My ancestor Mors Martell saw her and desired her, and proved that where armies fail, a tongue may succeed. Wedding his strength to hers, his spear to her son, they subdued all his rivals together. After the tradition of her people, House Martell then ruled Dorne as princes, not kings. Unless the eldest child was a daughter.
Oh, right.
For unlike the rest of Westeros, our loyalty isn't commanded by a cock. We follow a prince or a princess Martell just the same.
Okay.
And we always
I like
have.
that.
Some people forget that Aegon Targaryen crowned himself lord of 6 kingdoms, not 7. When his sister marched on Dorne, she found no mighty hosts drawn up against her for her dragon to burn and her soldiers to slaughter. The sands swirled, men died, and her dragon saw nothing. The sun shone, men died, and her dragon bowed to our greater fire. The
Wow.
Targaryens retreated with their tails tucked between their legs.
Oh.
Of course, in later years, his descendants would try again. Daeron the First succeeded at great cost and reigned in Dorne for a few glorious months. One night, his steward pulled down a sash by his bed to summon his consorts. Instead, the canopy split open and 100 red scorpions fell on him.
Oh,
Damn.
shit.
You would think he would be used to getting stung. Within a fortnight, House Martell again ruled a free Dorne. Eventually, After centuries of courtship, House Martell got into bed with the Targaryens. We took King Daeron II and his sister for our own before they could take each other, and 6 kingdoms became 7. Even now, I do not blame my ancestors. One look at those long, silver locks. It is not every day a man gets to ride a dragon.
True.
But they soon learned that you can't leap off a dragon at will. My sister Elia, she married Prince Rhaegar Targaryen and became the princess she already was. In Dorne, she walked among vipers, and none would bite her. In King's Landing, she found herself surrounded by lions. When Robert Baratheon rebelled against his rightful king, his future father-in-law, Tywin Lannister, ordered his beast, Gregor Clegane, to rape and murder my sister, along with her helpless children. And men called
I still don't get
Lannisters
why.
heroes.
So there's no usurpers.
Lannisters sit on the Iron Throne, surrounded by the blasted swords of Aegon's broken foes. I wonder if they remember, as I do, that none of those swords are ours.
Oh!
As I
Wow.
do, my sister's red blood soaking into the stones of their precious red keep. Maybe they need reminding. The lion may be a mighty beast.
They need
but
reminding.
Pride always lifts his gaze to the horizon, never seeing in the grass the viper.
Oh my god, that is so cool.
Just, man, he might be one of the biggest tragedies of the show. Like, there is so much potential to that arc. I just keep thinking about what could have been, how big that story could have flushed out.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that he pretty much got no revenge. Like, we don't even know if the Mountain's dead, but he pretty much didn't. I mean, he kept Tyrion alive, so his revenge is through Tyrion, I guess. But,
Well, not really. Like,
well, yeah, because Tyrion killed Tywin. So through keeping Tyrion alive, Tyrion, you know, got some justice by probably killing Tywin.
by like saying that he's his
But
champion.
not. I wanted him to systematically just destroy everyone else.
Oh, I know. How cool would it have been that he killed the Mountain and the Mountain actually said, yep, Tywin gave the order, bang, spear right through Tywin's like eyes.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
Once in a dream.
I know. But he says great lines, like the lion's looking out on the horizon but misses what's in the grass, the viper. That's really cool, like how he sees things like that.
Yeah, I like getting a bit of history on the Martells as well, because they've been, again, a bit elusive themselves. So
yeah,
it's cool getting more history and a taste of what it's like in their lands.
But I'm pretty sure the house words were unbowed, unbent, unbroken.
Yeah, it was.
That is
pretty cool.
Strong.
I like it.
That is some strong house words.
It represents Oberyn quite well.
House
he had no fear.
No fear.
He went against the Mountain, and this man was cocky and laughing. Now, yeah, he screwed up in the end, but something's to be said for up against the Mountain and having no fear to the degree where you're toying with him. He was mucking around with him.
I know.
Taunting him. Like, that is impressive.
Just an update for my Discord people. I think House Pudgy found her house words finally.
Oh,
unbowed,
thief.
unbent, unbroken.
Thief.
You thieved yours. Yours, well, what's yours?
We'll discuss this later.
What's yours?
No retreat. Wait.
He doesn't even know it.
Dude, you put me on the spots. No retreat, no surrender.
And where's that from?
Spartans, which represent my name.
No, stolen.
All right, last one, which is good because my attention is definitely failing me. Valyrian Steel by Jorah Mormont.
All right.
Interesting.
Iron chainmail and steel plate over the chest. Metal gauntlets over the hands and greaves over the legs. A visored helm over the skull. A knight in full armor can shrug off swords, spears, and axes. But Valyrian steel slices through his protections like so much cloth.
Damn.
As advanced as iron is from bronze, so is Valyrian steel from ordinary steel. Lighter yet stronger, and nothing holds an edge like it. If you take a whetstone to a Valyrian blade, you'll need another whetstone. And maybe another hand to hold it.
Oh,
shit.
Nobody knows how the Valyrians forge their steel. Less than a handful of smiths can now even reshape it. The process, like so much of their civilization, was lost in the Doom.
Many claim they wove magic spells into the molten metal and blasted it with dragonfire. When you see a Valyrian blade,
Wouldn't put it past them.
smoky and dark
Possible.
as if drinking in the sun and rippling with 1,000 folds, you may not scoff so loudly. The Valyrian steel that exists now is all there will ever be. Some survives in the citadel with the maester's chains, where a link of Valyrian
What a
steel
waste.
signifies study of the higher mysteries, whatever those are. Some
Whatever
drift
those
through
are.
the world as prized daggers and jewelry for rich merchants. I've even seen a Dothraki Arak. But much more of Valyrian steel lives on in the great houses of Westeros as their most treasured possession. A sword passed down from father to son for generations.
And now to Brienne.
Ice of House Stark. Heartsbane of House Tarly. Lady Forlorn of House
Tarly
Corbray.
had one.
But even precious treasures can be lost. Aegon Targaryen's Blackfyre and Visenya's dark sister disappeared in Daemon Blackfyre's rebellion. A foolish king of the Rock took House Lannister's Brightroar to Valyria, and neither blade nor man was seen again. And then there are the swords that are not lost, but lose their owners. For 5 centuries, Longclaw was the pride of House Mormont, my house. Even penniless and in great debt,
Now it's with Jon Snow.
I chose to sell men rather than the sword. And when my shame became known and I fled Bear Island for the east, I left it behind for my father, to hold it for a worthier heir. Valyrian steel is a wonder of the world, sharper than wits, truer than men, rarer than virtue. But even its edge cannot cut so deeply as a son's failure, nor its value
That's
match
poetic.
that of redemption.
What's interesting is I have no idea where Jorah is actually traveling to, but if he does go back to the west, he might actually see that his father gave the sword to Jon.
He might meet Jon, recognize him through the sword.
Oh my god.
As someone who's worthy. That's interesting. A lot of possibility. I didn't know that he actually left it behind. So he already had it, I think. And he left it behind to his father because he felt ashamed of what he had done.
Yeah, I thought the father just didn't give it to him in the end or something like that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right.
And Jorah also has a great way of speaking. Like most of them, they're very poetic in this Histories and Lore. The way they build you up, they build history, then they build a story, but then usually they end with their own inadequacy or failure.
Yeah.
Or something, some big cliffhanger that they, it's done really well.
Yeah, and it's just like, I like how they tell the story through obviously their eyes and just with their philosophies and things like that. Like the way they see the world, that's how the story is being told and no other. Like some people are just factual people and that's how it's going to be told, and other people are a little bit more biased and things like that. So it's always intriguing to see what's going to come next. The visuals were actually pretty decent in this one, and it was nice listening to a lot of different people that we don't usually hear from. I mean, one, it was nice to hear from Prince Oberyn for the very last time, I'm assuming. So
And we had some smaller names as well, yeah.
Yeah.
The visuals, like I said, they've improved. They improve each one bit by bit. Enough to still give it that storytelling feel.
yeah.
But they get a little bit better where you can get a little bit more immersed in what you're being shown.
Yeah. Did you feel like you got more out of this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just not to do with the Histories and Lore so much. With my familiarity. 4 seasons in now, I know way more names and world building and
It's easier to keep up.
Correct. The first couple were really like, whoa, this is what the hell.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to get enough bearings to which I can absorb a good amount of it, I believe.
Yeah, I felt the same. And I feel like although we heard Robert's Rebellion, like again, it is different hearing it from Oberyn, and it kind of felt like fresh. So although sometimes we're hearing the same stories, different perspectives, sometimes it gets a bit bland, but yeah, these ones were quite fresh and I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed our reaction to Histories and Lore Season 4. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, let us know what you thought of Histories and Lore in the comments down below. Stay tuned. Next upload and reaction for Game of Thrones will be the first episode of Season 5. We're very excited to see where the world picks up to from here.
And don't forget our updated Love Like Hate list will be there.
We got that as well, yep. So stay tuned for that. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you then.
See you guys.